Hello friends, it's Kristie Marcotte. In today's video, I'll be using some new products from scrapbook.com, including their brand new Deer die set. This is a really fun set, perfect for creating some Christmas cards, but you can also use it for other theme cards as well. I'll also be using the nested Zigzag frames die set. For a sentiment, I have the winter florals and greetings stamps and coordinating dies. And for paper, I'll be using an assortment from scrapbook.com. I have the Ginghams pattern paper, the pinks and candy smooth cardstock, and the classic glossy cardstock. I have 3 cards to share with you today, so let's go ahead and get started with card design number 1. I selected this lovely light tan gingham paper for the background, and I'm adding the largest size zigzag frame, and I cut it out from the glossy black cardstock. Before adhering the zigzag frame down, I'll first attach a piece of vellum behind it. That'll give the image a little more separation from the gingham background. I'm using scrapbook.com's smooth vellum cardstock, and I cut it just a little bit smaller than the frame. I'll add a line of barely art glue along the inside of the frame, add the vellum piece, and I'll place a large acrylic block on top for some added weight. Let that sit for a few minutes. Before adhering the frame on the gingham background, I do want to clean up my glass mat. I did get a little bit of barely art glue. So I'll first spray some water down and use my crafty cleanup cloth to wipe that away. This is Glassboard Studio's magnetic glass mat. I have the blush pink color, but there are other color options. I have the 18 by 24 inch size, but it is available in other sizes. And I just found out that scrapbook.com will be carrying some of the Glassboard Studio mats and also magnets and other accessories. The product may be available by the time I post this video, but if not, it's in the coming soon section on their website. And I do have links in the description box if you want to check it out. To adhere the zigzag frame, I put barely art glue behind it, but just behind the die cut frame. I don't want any of the glue to be visible through the vellum. Although I did add a little bit of barely art glue in the center toward the bottom, but that area will be covered up with the image. Then I'll adhere it on the front of the card. Next, I'll add my card front onto a card base. And I'm using scrapbook.com's deluxe adhesive roller. This is super sticky. I'll set aside the card, and now it's time to assemble one of the reindeer. There are so many different accessories and options to decorate your reindeer. All the brown cardstock I'm using for the reindeer, so the antler, the main reindeer, the light color for the muzzle, those are from scrapbook.com's neutral smooth cardstock paper pad. For the inside area of the ears and also the little blush cheeks, I used the pinks cardstock collection, and this is one of the lightest colors. I like to add the muzzle piece down first, then the inside of the ears. Next, I'll adhere the antlers, and you can attach them on the front of the head or you can put them behind the reindeer's head. I'm adding them in front, but only the very bottom edge will sit on the top of the reindeer's head. For the nose, eyes, and mouth, I use black cardstock. I'll add the nose down first and then the 2 eyes. And the eyes have little eyelashes, so make sure you're putting them on the correct side. The eyelashes should go on the outer side of the reindeer's head. I think it's a super cute feature. Before that glue dries completely, I'll make sure they're evenly spaced. Now I'll add the little blush cheek. It may be easier to add that before the muzzle, but I know there's enough area around the edge that I can easily lift that up and tuck those little blush pieces underneath, but you could also place them on top. So make sure they're evenly spaced before pressing them down. For the reindeer's shirt and earmuffs, I use this purplish pink color. And for the scarf, I use a pink color, and these are both from the Candy Smooth cardstock paper pad. To attach the shirt, I put a little bit of glue at the top area of the shirt and then place the reindeer head on that piece. After adding the scarf, I'll adhere the mouth. For many of these smaller pieces, I am using my reverse tweezers to pick them up. So there's the main look of the reindeer. I almost forgot to add the earmuffs. And you do want to assemble the face before adding the earmuffs. I'll put glue on the inside area of the earmuffs and then a little bit on the band, just where it sits on the antlers. And it is rather interesting that the earmuffs don't actually cover the reindeer's ears, but I think it's still super cute. I was trying to move them up just a little bit more, but the glue behind the band of the earmuffs has already dried, so I'll leave them where they're at. Now it's time to work on the sentiment. I decided to use Season Greetings, and this is from the Winter Florals and Greetings set. There are 3 perfect sentiments, and I love that the coordinating dies go not just around the image, but also the sentiments. I grab my mini Misty, a piece of white cardstock, and the ink color I'm using is Distress Oxide Seedless Preserves. It matches beautifully with this purplish cardstock color. I will ink up the sentiment a few times to get a nice solid impression. Now I'll grab the coordinating die and cut it out using my Platinum Scout machine. And it leaves the perfect white border around the sentiment. I'll adhere the sentiment on the inside of the zigzag frame. I'm putting it at the bottom, trying to get it nice and centered. And I do have a little bit of time to adjust that sentiment before the glue dries completely. And the reindeer will sit right on top. For this reindeer, I'm not popping it up using any foam. Instead, I'm using Barely Art glue. And I'll make sure to add good coverage behind the reindeer and the antlers, adhere it down, and the very tip of both antlers do go off the edge of the card, but just a tiny bit. So it should still fit nicely in an A2 size envelope. This reindeer is a nice large size, so it'll be the feature image on your card or project. So now it's time to decorate the antlers. For this card, I'm using several of the ornaments and also a bow. 2 of the ornaments, I use the same pink color I use for the scarf. The round ornament and the bow are a lighter purple cardstock, and the star is this bright yellow cardstock. The die set has 3 different string options. There's a short, a long, and then a slightly wavy. There's also a small string bow. I'll add that bow on the star and use the other 3 strings for the 3 hanging ornaments. So you can have them hanging just a little bit or more if you're choosing one of the longer strings. The bow I put in the upper left-hand corner, just adhered it down on one of the antlers. To attach the strings, I'm putting them through the little hole opening of the ornaments. On the back side of the ornament, I put a small piece of the 1/8 inch clear double-sided adhesive tape. And that'll hold onto the end of the string. For 2 of the ornaments, I'll also pop them up using some foam. So the longer pink ornament and also the round light purple ornament, both of those I will pop up with some foam dimension. I grabbed the small foam squares from scrapbook.com in the 1mm thickness. I'll put 2 small squares behind the pink ornament. Put glue behind the string and adhere it on the left side of the reindeer. For the other pink ornament, I'll put it in the upper right-hand corner on the antler, and part of it will sit behind one little area of the antler. And I'll glue that one down with Barely Art glue. I'll add a little bit of pressure, hold that in place for a moment with my fingers. I have one final ornament that needs a string. It gets the long straight string. And for this one, since it is a little bit larger, I'll grab a large foam square. This is also the 1 millimeter thickness. I'll put a little bit of glue behind the top area of the string and adhere the ornament in place. And you can add more ornaments if you want. There's also a stocking option, which is really cute. For a final finishing touch, I'll add a few highlights using a white gel pen. Whenever I use a white gel pen, I grab a scrap piece of cardstock. Just want to make sure it's flowing nicely. You never know with white gel pens. I've had pretty good luck with this one so far. It's a Jelly Roll 0.08 from Sakura. I started by adding the little highlight inside the eyes. I think that tiny little touch really adds life to the reindeer. I'll also add highlights on the bow and all 4 ornaments. Then a final touch, I'll put 3 little tiny white circles inside the blush cheeks. So there is my finished card. I think this one might be my favorite from the whole set. Now moving on to card design number 2, I'll start off by doing a little bit of white splatter using Scrapbook.com's white Lustre brush marker. I'll be adding the splatter on a small piece of blue cardstock. I'll squeeze out a little bit of the solution on an acrylic block. Then I'll gently tap the brush over the cardstock, and I'm tapping it on the cap of the brush. I want some areas with larger splatter and other areas with the small splatter. My goal is for it to look like snowfall. I will set that piece aside to dry, and if you weren't aware, the white Lustre brush marker has a magical effect. So while it sits there, the white color will get brighter. Right now it's fairly faint, but by the time I add it to the card, those whites will be nice and bright. For this card, I've already assembled most of the reindeer. This reindeer will be wearing the little winter hat. I'll adhere it on the top of the reindeer's head before adding the antlers. So once the hat's down, now I'll put glue behind the bottom area of the antlers and adhere them behind the winter hat. And before that glue dries completely, I'll make sure they're lined up how I want them. I use the same pink color for the scarf, but this time I have this mint color green for the shirt and also the little pom-pom on top of the hat. I'll put glue behind half of that pom-pom and adhere it at the very top of the winter hat. So there's the reindeer all assembled, and this time I will pop it up using foam. I grabbed the small and large foam squares from Scrapbook.com in the 1 millimeter thickness. And to fit them behind the antlers, I did cut some of the small squares in half. For a sentiment, I'll be adding Sending a Warm Hug, and the ink color I used is from Catherine Pooler. It's the Bay Breeze color. For the background of my card, I selected one of the green and cream gingham papers, and I've already adhered it on an A2 size card base. This time I'm using the next size down of the Zigzag frame. I did cut it out from the black glossy cardstock again. Behind the frame, this is where I'm adding the blue piece with the white snowfall. And I don't know if you were watching it, but that snowfall is much brighter now. I'll adhere it down first and then put the frame on top. And I cut the blue piece just a tiny bit larger than the opening of the Zigzag frame. I've already removed the release paper from the foam, so now I'll add the reindeer inside the frame, lining up the very bottom edge of the shirt with the edge of the Zigzag frame. The sentiment will go at the bottom of the frame, and part of it will overlap the reindeer shirt. So behind the sentiment, just the lower half, I am adding a scrap piece of white cardstock, and it is fairly thick cardstock. I'll adhere that down, then put glue on the back and adhere the sentiment at the bottom of the frame. Need to add one more little scrap piece on the one side of the sentiment. And I think I must be in Christmas mode because I keep calling the deer a reindeer, but this is technically a deer die set, so you could use it any time of the year. Doesn't need to be a reindeer. After putting glue behind the sentiment, I'll adhere it underneath the reindeer, trying to get it on nice and straight. You'll still see a tiny bit of the zigzag frame peeking out from underneath the sentiment. For a final finishing touch, I'll grab the white gel pen again, scribble off a little bit on a scrap piece of cardstock, and I'll start off by putting the highlights inside the eyes. This time I'm putting those little dots toward the bottom of the eye. The previous card, I added them at the top. And I'll also add the little polka dots inside the cheeks. So there is my finished card, and with the sentiment, sending a warm hug. I think this one is perfect to send during the winter. I do have one final card to share, although I'm not showing the process. I use more of the gingham paper for the background, a light pink and white. The frame is the largest zigzag frame, but this time I used the white glossy cardstock. And I just had to add a pair of glasses on one of the deers. Now here's another look at the 3 cards I made using Scrapbook.com's brand new deer die set, along with some other fun products. If you are interested in any of the products I used in this video, I do have links in the description box below. The new deer set is so cute, and I love all the fun accessories included. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day.